From the News Channel 8 studios, Let's Talk Live with your hosts, Natasha Barrett and Doug McElway.
Hey, welcome to this Friday edition of Let's Talk Live.
It is a good day. I'm ready for the weekend.
I am too.
It's supposed to get better this weekend, though. On the show today, a look at some surprising news statistics that could have you hopping off the scale and maybe into the doctor's office.
Or maybe into the Krispy Kreme shop.
Yeah, exactly.
This is kind of interesting. This would suggest that if you have a little bit of poundage on you,
that it might be good.
Might be good. I'm
like
skeptical of this,
because I have my winter layers on.
You do?
I do. Don't you though?
I do.
You're very sweet, but it does show when I tried to get into, like, this was the third pair of jeans that I put on this morning. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's very honest of you. I didn't notice, and that's honest.
Thank you.
Also, how you can fix up your home this weekend with some expert advice from HGTV. The Home and Garden Show is in town this weekend.
Right?
It's always a sure sign of spring. Makes me very happy.
Yes, sun is on its way. And why people are taking notice of DC's beauty resume. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but first, a lot of people are looking for jobs right now. Obesity is really affecting a lot of people right here in the U.S. What isn't as heavily talked about is the wide scope of the term obesity.
You know, being overweight is typically a precursor to becoming obese, and we all know that obesity is a really dangerous health situation. But the Mayo Clinic is revealing now that there are some new studies out there which suggest if you're mildly overweight, it may not necessarily be a bad thing. And in fact, that mildly overweight people could be potentially healthier than skinny people. This is really perplexing and kind of a change in what we've all been told about. Mary Perry is a nutritionist, and she's here joining us to tell us more about this and what we should make of this study. Mary, thank you very much for coming in.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. Yeah, you know, this is such an interesting study. In our culture, especially with so much obesity going on, we get so focused on weight, or that number on the scale. And what the study is really looking at is not just weight, but body composition. So when I say body composition, we're talking about the ratio of body fat to muscle. And what the study kind of indicated, which is really interesting, is something I called the skinny fat phenomenon. And basically what that is we might look at someone and say, wow, they look great, they look very slender, they're at a normal weight for their height, but they might have a very high body fat level.
It's that comparison. And just
Absolutely.
to make it clear, we're not talking about people that are obese, who are very overweight. We're talking about, well, I mean, again, to the comparison of the body type, but how can we really break it down and say this is the type of person? Someone that is a couple sizes over what they usually are? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, you know, we kind of need to look at each person individually. So we definitely, you know, everyone has this body ideal, or we always think sometimes thin, everybody's aiming to be very thin. But a lot of times, if you're a little bit more muscular, so maybe, you know, you're still within that normal weight range, but maybe on the higher end, that, you know, kind of what the study was saying, can be a good thing if you have that high muscle mass. What they found in the study is that folks that are slender but still have this high level of body fat, they actually have health risks as if they were obese. And we're talking about the health risks like high cholesterol, diabetes, and other kind of heart disease and other chronic diseases.
There was some suggestion in the study that maybe people who are mildly overweight might have a leg up on the long-term health benefits and living a healthy lifestyle, in the sense that maybe their doctors were recognizing a propensity for overweightness early and were telling them to watch out for it. Maybe they were giving, you know, anti-cholesterol drugs earlier in life than most people would get. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you know, hopefully, you know, my message is always to kind of focus on a solid foundation of food, nutrition, and exercise. So, you know, hopefully if someone is mildly overweight, first we really want to look to see what that ratio of muscle to fat is. Because it could be that they're, you know, still very healthy, even though they may not be at that quote-unquote ideal size.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's just daunting to hear it because, you know, how many times have we heard, well, we know this as a fact, heart disease, #1 killer of women in the United States. Diabetes is also associated with being overweight. And these are the risk factors that even our children now are starting to suffer from. So when you hear this, that it might be a good thing, it's like, wait a second. Is it because these people, as Doug alluded to, are going to the doctor so much and getting treated that maybe they're living longer because it's helping the diseases that are accompanied with obesity? You
know, that could be a factor. Another factor is I actually brought my little tape measure in today, and I brought this along with me because besides just looking at, you know, how much muscle to fat you have, one of the things that can be a real I guess, indicator of propensity to chronic disease is where you store your fat.
Okay.
So it's not just how much body fat you have, but where it is on your body. So I brought my tape measure in. For folks that are pear-shaped and put, kind of store that body fat in their hips, it's kind of frustrating because it's very hard to lose body fat there, but they're finding that doesn't necessarily increase your health risk. But it's for folks that are what we call the apple shape.
That's the danger, isn't
exactly. That's right in that stomach area.
Mid area.
Exactly. And
it's so easy to store and so hard to get off.
It is. So what I did is, I brought my little tape measure along.
Closer to the heart.
Absolutely. And, so this could be a quick thing. If you don't have someone can measure your body fat right offhand, is just get your tape measure out. And for ladies, you want to see that number to be 35 inches or smaller. For gentlemen, you'd like to see that number to be 40 inches or smaller. Once you get higher than that number, they start to see an increase in your risk for those chronic diseases.
Interesting.
So women, again, 35?
35 or less.
Or less.
Men, 40 inches or less.
Are you concerned at all that this Mayo study might send the wrong signal to a lot of people? Say, okay, I'm mildly overweight. It says I'm going to live longer. As a result, I'm going to reward myself with a couple of Hostess cupcakes right now.
Well,
routinely.
Or just not pay attention to what they need to do.
Well, I think, I looked over the study, and I think the message hopefully people take away is that we can't equate what we look like with whether or not we're healthy. So someone could be slender, but they may not necessarily be healthy on the inside. Someone could maybe have a little more muscle mass on them and have a little more thickness to them, but they could be very healthy. So you really have to, work with your health professionals, work with your nutritionist, to set that base foundation, have a healthy life, to make sure you're really healthy from the inside out.
The one thing that got me here is even in the study, the doctor that did the study with the Mayo Clinic said that there's no hard evidence of why this is happening. There was another study in 2005 that pointed out and had the same results, but there's just theories out there at this point.
Right, and so again, it goes back to having that solid foundation. I think if you have a good nutrition base and you're eating whole grains and lean proteins and good fruits and vegetables, you're exercising and take care of yourself. I think again the study points to it's like you can't rely on weight as just one indicator of health, but you have to look at lifestyle and a number of factors.
When I was a kid, my parents would always have this discussion at the dinner table. If the kids, if I was not eating enough or the kids were not clearing their plate or whatever. My mom would always say, "Oh, come on, finish your peas. Go ahead and take a bite." And my father would say, "No." My father, who was a physician, said, "No, don't make them do that. Leave the plate. Don't make it." He said, "I don't want them to feel like they have to clear their plate when they get older." And he said, "I've never seen any patient who suffered ill effects from being skinny ever."
But it's true. I mean, how many parents said that to us? And I think growing up, you pass that along to your kids, and that's just the way it is.
Well, absolutely, and it brings up such a good point is that, a lot of times kids are great because they have that natural signal that they know when they're hungry and they know when they're full. But it's us folks as adults who try to kind of override that and no, honey, you didn't eat enough, and we kind of worry. And so, I mean, it's wonderful you had that experience with your father who was kind of like, no, he knows if he's full and if he knows he's hungry.
Now, there is, of course, bulimia and anorexia nervosa, which is, extreme skinniness, and that can be destructive. We should point that out.
Right, and that's why, again, kind of going back to the study, that's why it's really important to kind of get away from the scale is, I have a lot of clients that get very tied to the scale, and they have a good day or a bad day, depending on what that number says in the morning.
And that's ridiculous, because, I mean, each day, water intake, this and that, I mean, you can't just hold true to a number, even a number you were in college. I mean, that's not you now.
Right, and again, it goes back to, it's more than, that's just one number. And you said there's fluctuations, from day to day, and you kind of have to look at the big picture. And then again, you have to look at your body composition, how much muscle you have to how much fat you have, and to see if you're healthy.
Mary Perry, thanks for coming in here and breaking it down for us.
Appreciate that. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next on the show, how you can fix all your home and garden needs. The garden? Can you even see your garden right now?
No, it's covered up with snow.
A little bit. We can get ideas. It's going on this weekend at the Dulles Expo Center.
And when we come back, how Bristol Palin is extending her time in the spotlight a little bit. We'll tell you what she's up to.
And if you want more, check us out on our website. We throw all the video from the show on there. It's letstalklive.tv. We'll be right back.